Makeup. This event is brought to you by the Illinois School Library Media Association. ISLMA provides leadership and support for the development, promotion, and improvement of school library media profession and programs in Illinois. If you're interested in learning more about ISLMA and everything that membership offers, go to www.islama.org. Special thanks today to the ISLMA marketing person, Katie Alexander, and ISLMA membership, Christine Pulgar, for their hard work on this virtual maker meetup. Also, special thanks to ISLMA President Patty Fleeser and the ISLMA board for supporting this PD opportunity. Why a virtual maker meetup? After our annual conference in November, we decided positive feedback from members who attended the Makerspace sessions as presenters and panelists provided amazing maker ideas and how the maker movement is impacting their libraries and their students. Amazing technology leaders Mary Morgan Ryan and Andrea Perrin proposed the idea to continue the maker conversation and host a professional development opportunity or a meetup to share makerspaces ideas using YouTube Live. Next, I have a few bits of information that will help with your participation in the maker meetup. First, have you signed in? You will find the sign in link on the landing page. Even if you don't need professional development hours, we'd love to know who is taking advantage of this great opportunity to learn. How does the virtual maker meetup YouTube Live work? This is the landing page, or something similar to this. Please come back here after each session. You can choose a presentation every half hour from 8 a.m. with the last session ending at 10 a.m. You can communicate with the presenters via a live chat. From our earlier communication, you may need to create an account to be able to participate in the live chat. You may even need to refresh from time to time. If you have any questions, we have a live support back channel available as well. How do you receive professional development hours is another great question. Hopefully you have all signed in and will need to sign out at the conclusion of the final session at 10 a.m. There will be a link on the sign out page that takes you to the ISB evaluation form, which we will need to have completed so that you may receive your 2 PDH credits. So here we are this morning, ready to participate in this first virtual maker meetup. So let's get started. So I'd like to introduce the first presenter of the morning. Her name is Kristen Matson, and she is currently the High School Library Media Director at Waubonsie Valley High School in Aurora, Illinois. Kristen has a passion for instructional technology, curriculum, and problem-based learning. She partners with teachers in all content areas to integrate digital literacy, research skills, creation, and innovation in the classroom. As part of a Future Ready school district, she is a leader in promoting the Future Ready Librarians Framework. She enjoys supporting fellow librarians by hosting site visits, facilitating professional development, blogging about her experiences at DRK Matson, and moderating the Future Ready Librarians Facebook group. Follow Kristen on Twitter at Dr. K Matson. Please join me in welcoming my colleague and my friend who sits at my $10 desk, Kristen Matson.
Thanks, Deb. You made me sound awesome, and now I feel like the pressure is on. I just want to thank everybody for joining us on this Saturday morning. Hopefully you've got your coffee and you're ready to learn. I kicked my kids out of the house this morning along with my husband. If you haven't seen the hilarious video yet of the BBC interview being interrupted by kids, you have to Google it when we're done today because it was absolutely hilarious and my biggest fear in presenting with you this morning. So now my biggest fear is just a really yappy dog that likes to interrupt for attention. So we're going to do our best to make this morning awesome without interruptions. But yeah, even the BBC gets that now and again. So today I want to start off by sharing some slides with you that I see many of you are also already in. And I'm just going to go ahead and push those over. We're going to talk a little bit about this maker movement and really start by defining what a maker space is. Sharing some slides with you that I see many of you are also already in. And I'm just going to go ahead and push those over. We're going to talk a little bit about this maker movement and really start by defining what a maker space is. Sharing some slides with you that I see many of you are also already talk right now, and I'm trying to figure out why because I don't have the viewing window open. Are you guys Okay, Deb and Jill, are you hearing echoes or are we good?
I'm good.
Okay, this is just a little moment of inception, I guess. All right, we'll go ahead and dive in. So the maker movement, if you were to just go ahead and do a Google search for what is a makerspace, you would likely find a definition that looks a lot like this. It's a place in which people with shared interests can gather to work on projects while sharing ideas, equipment, and knowledge. When I read that definition, I right away think about a library. For me, a library has always been a place where people can get together to work on projects, to share ideas, to share technology, resources, and equipment. If you dig a little bit deeper into some makerspace definitions, you might see some caveats like this one that say things like, especially in computing or in technology. But I really think that if you were to talk to some folks who have jumped into this maker movement, they would tell you, and what I'm going to tell you today as well, that it really isn't so much about the tools as it is about the mindsets that a makerspace can create. So whether you call your makerspace a fab lab or a hacker space or a DIY center or a creation station, which I've heard all of them, it's really less about what you stock the space with and more about the mindsets that you can develop. So for me, a makerspace is really about curiosity. And as our kids get older, being in a high school library, I feel like their opportunities for being curious really sort of start to dwindle as they are worried about completing coursework, finishing all of the check marked boxes on those college applications. That ability and opportunity to just be curious and imagine and play kind of dwindles. So in our makerspace, I try to provide opportunities where my kids come in and ask things like, how does that work? And what can I do with that? And I see that when I put a big box of wires out on the table and kids swarm around it and try to figure out, what is this box of wires and what can I do with it? I love when I hear kids ask me, how did you make that? When I can have a finished product out on the table and invite them to come in and make one of their own. For me, the makerspace is also about problem solving. So if I can develop a situation where kids come in and ask, how can I solve this problem? And can I try it myself? Those are makerspace wins for me. Makerspace is also about perseverance. And when I put out a kit of Little Bits and some boys come in and decide they're going to make a remote control car without a remote, they learn very, very quickly that that remote control car is going to just spin in circles and kind of fall apart. But the bell rings and the boys leave. And the cool thing about the makerspace is that you see these kids come back day after day during their own time to finish what they started earlier. And so you've got these same boys who decided to come back now and build not only a car, but a remote. And even though their driving skills needed some help, they persevered and came back without any expectation, without a grade hanging over their head, to really just try to complete something that they had started. For me, a makerspace is also about applied knowledge. When our kids move from class to class to class every 42 minutes, it's easy for them to kind of compartmentalize the things that they're learning in class. Our Spheros section of our makerspace has been an awesome opportunity for kids to take what they're learning in physics and in math and in some of their basic technology classes and see how all of those bits and parts of knowledge can work together to make a fantastic thing sort of come to life. So we put out these Sphero challenges, asking kids to take the things that they're learning in class and apply them in a new way. So to watch students choose to skip a lunch period, come into the library, and try to use their math skills to figure out why a Sphero is programmed to move between 0 and 255. And I come in and there's scraps of paper with math formulas and there's rulers on the floor and there's kids engaged. I know that they're applying the things that they're learning in their day in a really real and authentic way. And sometimes those challenges take multiple days. So to see the kids coming back again and again and again to apply their knowledge to solve problems is just, for me, what the heart of our makerspace is really about. So there are times when I present problems to kids and try to get them to engage in some really real ways in problem solving, but there are also times when students bring problems to our makerspace. So I'm going to jump out of these slides real quick and just kind of talk to you for a minute about my favorite experience that I had with a student in our makerspace. I had a girl last year come in and ask me if she could use our 3D printer to make a plug for a pair of sneakers that she had. And she held up her foot and showed me this perfect circle in the bottom of her sneaker. And I said, yes, of course, I think we can probably have you make something on the 3D printer to put in the hole in the bottom of your shoe, but you have to tell me, how did you get such a perfectly round hole in the bottom of your shoe? And she explained to me that she was at the mall and there was a store that was taking shoes off of a mannequin and they were selling these Converse for $5. And if you're a teenage girl, really, I mean, if you're most of us, who can pass up a great pair of $5 shoes? And this young lady had purchased the Converse for $5 and thought, she'd figure it out. But, eventually started walking around realizing that her feet were getting very wet. So the hole in the bottom of this shoe was actually because of the way they have to sort of manipulate the shoe to fit over the mannequin. So I'm going to share my screen with you again and show you kind of how this shoe worked. And then I want to talk to you about the solution that our student came up with. So here we go. When my young lady purchased her shoes, it was a situation like this where the foot of the mannequin had a metal bar coming down from the bottom of the foot that kind of attached the mannequin to the base platform. And so that silver bar that you see is about the diameter of the hole in her shoe. So she came in, asked, about solving this problem. I was able to hand her some very simple instructions on how to use a tool called Tinkercad to build a file that we could print on our 3D printer. So this young lady went away with the instructions and came back the next day with a file on a flash drive. So this student chose to spend her free time after school working on creating a solution to a problem that she had identified. Now, the picture that you see on the right was her first attempt at creating what she called a shoe plug. And when we put it in the shoe, realized very quickly that her measurements were a bit off and that this giant shoe plug was not going to be the solution that she needed. But what this young lady did was take the plug, go back home, and about 2 days later emailed me another file and said, I think I've got it figured out. Can you print this one instead? And I wish that I had grabbed a final picture, but I didn't. She eventually had a perfect fit shoe plug for her $5 Converse. And the cool thing for me about that story is not only that the problem came into the makerspace, it was an authentic problem. But what this student did was to persevere through a problem, prototype something, learn from that prototype, and evolve her design. And unfortunately, in high school especially, our kids are worried about taking risks in their learning. They have, everything counts. Everything's going to go on the college transcript. Everything has to be, factored into the GPA. So in taking a risk, they are taking a very big risk in learning. So what I love about our makerspace is that it is a place in the high school where it's perfectly okay to take a risk and not know what's going to happen and not know if you're going to fail, but that you can pick yourself up from that failure and try again until you find success. I love what happens in our makerspace when our kids actually do accomplish things and experience that pride in finishing something that they set out to create. These two boys were the only boys in my makerspace last year who tried to fold origami. It was a mostly female-dominated sort of activity. And so when they spent the period folding frogs in our school colors, green and gold, I was so excited. I said, boys, this is awesome. I have to take your picture. And you can tell the kid on the left, he was like, Madsen, you can take my picture, but I'm going to, I got to make sure that I'm looking cool in this picture. And so he begrudgingly allowed me to take his image, and they agreed that I could put it on our LMC Twitter feed and Instagram page. So the cool thing for me about this experience is that the same student about 6 weeks later approached me. Look at the change in his face from that first picture on the left to this new picture on the right. He came up to me with this brain ball. It's basically like a maze that has a small marble inside of it, and they have to work the ball through the maze until it gets from kind of point A to point B. And he had been working on that maze during lunch hours for a good week. And he came up to me in my office and said, "Mrs. Manson, you have to take my picture. You have to tweet it out. I finished the maze." And you can just see the pride in his face, and you can kind of see the evolution from, I'm not really sure it's cool to engage in this stuff. I'm not really sure it's cool to celebrate my accomplishments, to this entire mindset shift where we're celebrating accomplishments together. And our kids really are proud of the things that they're doing in the maker space. This is my buddy Sebastian. He was my Sphero champion. Last year, he would come in every day and ask me if I had a new Sphero challenge for him. And what we ended up doing was putting a poster on the wall with just the Sphero challenges across the top and the kids' names down the side. And every time they would finish a challenge, they'd get to put a sticker on the poster board. And not only would Sebastian come in every day and ask me if he could try a new challenge, he was studying that board because he wanted to be the best at Sphero challenges. And he was always the first one to get a sticker. And he wanted to make sure that, no one else completed a challenge before he did. And at the end of the year, Sebastian was our only student to complete every Sphero challenge that I put out there. And it was just that little sticker on that board where he felt pride and he felt accomplishment to be able to say that he alone had completed every challenge that we put out. And so instead of, eating lunch and hanging out with his friends, Sebastian was applying all these different skills of math, science, problem solving, creativity, and he was super proud of what he had accomplished. I found this Post-it note next to the same Sphero remote control car, Little Bits remote control car that you saw at the beginning. Two girls had built the same car and they didn't want to take it apart. So they left a Post-it note next to the car on the table when the bell rang. And they left a second Post-it note that said, "Mrs. Manson, please don't take our car apart." So I left it for a little bit, but eventually, you have to kind of take it apart so someone else can give it a shot. But I loved the Post-it note that they left where they celebrated their accomplishments of building this car. And instead of tossing it, I hung it up on the wall in our library. And this sort of became the beginnings of, I like to call it like our refrigerator door, where we just have a place that kids can hang their artwork. They can hang their statements of accomplishment like this. I will take pictures throughout the library and print and hang those. And so if we are creating this culture where it's not only cool to accomplish things, but we're going to celebrate those accomplishments as well. The individual accomplishments are fantastic, but the group accomplishments, I think, are even better. During the month of October, we closed our makerspace down and replaced it with a breakout EDU game that I had designed called Who Killed Dewey Decimal? And the kids got to sign up in teams to compete during their lunch hours and solve a series of problems and puzzles and try to solve the mystery of who killed Dewey Decimal. So every day for about 3 weeks, every lunch hour, we had teams coming through trying their best to solve this problem together as a team. And I have picture after picture after picture of teams celebrating the fact that they had solved the mystery. Increasingly, our makerspace is becoming about student ownership. And, last year I really started off by creating what I thought that space should look like. And as I've built rapport and trust with the kids, they're really coming to me and asking if they can have some ownership in what that space looks like. So just about 2 weeks ago, a young lady named Natalie, who's one of our sophomores, she's been wanting to start a crochet club at Waubonsee and hasn't had enough interest to make it an official club. And so she came and asked me if she could host a Crochet 101 class in our makerspace during her lunch hour in the hope that she would hook in enough kids to enjoy crochet and maybe join her club and get it made an official club at our school. So during fifth period lunch, we helped Natalie advertise. We got some supplies sort of organized for her. She brought in some of her own. That very first day, she had 5 students. I love that there's boys in this picture too, crocheting with Natalie. I just love it. 5 students who came that first day and learned some basic stitches and actually came back every day after. And by the end of the week, Natalie came into my office and said, Mrs. Matson, do you have any more crochet hooks? Because I have more students than I have hooks. And this was an awesome problem to have. It's amazing to me to see what kids will create and latch onto if just given some time and some space and some support. So the fact that my kids are taking ownership in the makerspace, I couldn't be more excited. One of my very favorite quotes about libraries is this one. It says, "Bad libraries build collections, good libraries build services, and great libraries build communities." And I think that we had a good library. We really did. We had some amazing things happening. But in this messy journey toward creating a makerspace, and I call it a messy journey because there are days that I don't know what it's going to look like. And there are days where there's too many kids in the space, and there are days when there's no kids in the space. And it has been something that has just constantly evolved. But in this messy process, I really feel like we've been able to go from a good library to a great library. And that's because of the communities of learners that I see coming together around collaborative projects, around authentic problem-based learning opportunities, and having and celebrating successes together. So for me, the makerspace is a lot of things. It's perseverance, problem solving, collaboration, but for me, the biggest thing is that it's about community. And to see groups of kids coming together to work and share their experiences is really how we just continue to build relationships and build communities in our library. So over the next hour and a half, you're going to hear from a lot of different people, myself included in one of the breakout sessions. And they're going to tell you about their experiences and their journey. And that journey can get a little bit overwhelming if it's one that you haven't started thinking about or you've just started thinking about, because it can be easy to get caught up in the stuff. How do I know what to buy? How am I going to get the money? Where are we going to put all these things? It can be very easy to kind of get caught in the weeds in those little details. But today, as you listen to all of these different breakout sessions, I would like for you to just kind of keep some of the heart of the makerspace in mind. Think about the ways that you can give kids real authentic opportunities to create and to problem solve and to collaborate and to build community in your library. Regardless of whether you have the latest technology or you have a jigsaw puzzle that you pulled out of your own basement. And yes, that exists in my makerspace too. So as we go into these breakouts today, please just keep those wonderful things in mind, because I really think that the heart of the makerspace is what matters most. So we're going to head back over to the splash page now, and I'm going to share with you that URL one more time in case you've somehow missed it or you're joining us a little bit later, or you joined us a little bit late. Let me make sure I'm actually sharing my screen. Too many windows open at once. Yes, we are sharing. Great. Okay, so the event URL that you're going to want to use should now be here at the bottom of my screen. You've got sites.google.com/islma.org/2017maker/home. And I just want to remind you that this free professional development was brought to you by the Illinois School Library Media Association. We would encourage you to find out what benefits your membership provides by visiting islma.org today. So we'll see you over on the splash page for your very first breakout session. I hope you have a great morning of learning. Thank you for joining me.
Andrea, we have a great question from Sandra, and it's, where can I find Sphero challenges for elementary kids? And if you do not know that, maybe somebody in the community could put that in. Do you have any idea where you can get Sphero challenges for elementary kids?
For sure. I actually wrote all of my Sphero challenges myself. I know that there are other folks out there who are writing and sharing those challenges. There are also some Sphero curricular materials on their website that you might be able to adapt for kids your age, or they may inspire you to come up with some challenges. If you haven't already, I would encourage you to search up the Future Ready Librarians Facebook group on Facebook. There are about 4,500 school librarians there sharing ideas all day long, and they're a wonderful resource as well. So that's one place that you could try to connect with others who are in elementary using Spheros. Was there anything else, Jill? Oh.
I think that is, I think that's the only question. Lots of positive comments, but if anybody else has specific recommendations for Sphero challenges for elementary, please put them in the chat.
For sure. Okay. Well, I'm gonna log out here so I can jump into my first breakout challenge room, and we will see you all in that first breakout session. Have a good morning.